Hello everyone, this is part 25 of What If Naruto Was Trained by the Kyuubi, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. 2 days later. It's been 2 nearly endless days since the failed invasion of Konoha, and the village had been very busy in trying to get any and all repairs going to fix its once pristine form. As the village itself began recuperation, those in seats of power including the village council were still frantic over all the issues that had to be discussed. The foremost issue being the reconstruction of the village and mass burials for the deceased, with many other topics being discussed, the other two important being the decision about what to do with one Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. After his spectacle at the gates, many of council members, especially those who witnessed it firsthand, other than Chum and Hiashi, were on edge to continue allowing him within the village walls, and with no supervision to counterbalance the power he possessed. If they had their way, they would have the man bound, gagged, stuffed in a damp cell with chakra cuffs on and drain him of every sperm he had to get both clan bloodlines he possessed back into Konoha's grasp. Fortunately for Naruto, Sarutobi informed those that didn't know already that since no one could get inside the Namikaze mansion without Naruto's consent, the best he could do was set up Anbu outside the premises, which much to his relief kept the council satisfied for the moment. The second topic talked about was what they could, should, and would do about Hana and Kasumi's caping. However, when the topic was brought up, Sarutobi simply told them he already had plans made for their rescue, which seemed to subdue the tenseness in the room. Though Danzo looked less than happy at the prospect for unknown reasons. Earlier that day, Sarutobi had finally chanced a visit to Kushina to tell her the news of her daughter's whereabouts. And although the woman was still in a deep depression thinking over her conversation with her deceased husband, the moment she heard about Kasumi, well, let's just say training ground 4 wouldn't be usable for a long time. Meanwhile, no one, not even Sarutobi himself, heard about any news on Naruto. Even the Anbu he stationed at the mansion reported that no one has entered nor left the mansion since they've been deployed there. Sarutobi himself grimaced at the news, and worry etched his face whenever he had a spare moment and an image of Naruto's bloody body emerged in his mind's eye. He did his best to ignore the feeling in the pit of his stomach, and continued to do his best to figure out the best ways to deal with all the problems the village had. One of the major ones about to be discussed in his office once his 4 guests got to his office. Namikaze mansion. In the master bed laid the orange-haired Hanyu Naruto, with his abdomen completely covered in bandages and a wet cloth resting on his forehead. He'd been out for the past 2 days with a worrying pair of women that stayed by his side the entire time. Though that quickly changed when Natsumi bonkered herself in the head and, deciding to cut out the middleman, went back into the seal to see how Naruto was holding up, which secretly frustrated Yugito to no end for not being able to do the same and see him. Fortunately for the Nibi container, after 2 days her time to wait for him to regain conscious finished. Ugh. It feels like I've been espered through the chest. Naruto's groaned voice said haggardly before his past memories shot back. Oh yay. He retorted dumbly, rubbing his chest, still feeling phantom pain from the blade. Naruto opened his eyes slowly, before surveying his surroundings. Thankfully Natsumi kept him up to date on what happened thus far after he blacked out, so he wasn't out of the loop nor surprised that he was back home. He sat up from the bed and was about to pull the sheets back when he felt resistance and looked over, only to see a peacefully sleeping Yugito resting on her arms with her head on the edge of his bed. He leaned over to get a better view of the sleeping woman, and bit back a chuckle when he saw a small puddle of drool under her mouth. He tentatively stretched out a hand and as gently as he could began to caress her head, trying not to wake her, and almost immediately saw a contented smile stretch on her lips and a tight purr rumble from her chest. Gonna have to do something for her as a thank you for helping me, he thought, letting a happy but small smile grace his lips, as he continued with his ministrations. Or, don't I get a thank you? I was the one who healed you after all, Naru-kun. Natsumi's voice echoed through his head, her voice sounding so childish he could almost see the pout she probably had on her lips at the moment. You were alone with me for almost 2 days, Natsu-chan. I think that is enough of a reward for you. And if that wasn't, then need I remind you of all the things we did while there? I'd say, in the river, against the tree, on the mountain peak, and, atop a bed of roses, were all rewards enough for you, N.E. He retorted huskily. Those certainly were very nice rewards, my foxy-sama, even if not using our real boss. Very well, I'll let this time slide. She answered back in the same fashion. Though you're just lucky I can't get pregnant in there, mister. Some of those things you did would have gotten me knocked up, for sure. She finished while laughing at knowing she made him blush from the last comment. As the two were talking, a sleeping Yugito finally roused from her slumber only to find a very pleasant feeling rush across her head, it being so relaxing she was tempted to just fall back asleep, but decided to check on Naruto before deciding. She slowly opened her eyes, and let them focus on the room before looking up towards the sleeping man in bed. Only the man wasn't sleeping, in fact was wide awake, sitting up, and was the very person that was caressing her head. Her eyes shot open at the revelation and a breath in her tea caught, her body tensed but moved not an inch. The sudden tense movement caused Naruto to look down at her. Ohio Yugito-chan, I hope you slept well. Naruto said with a smile, before realizing he was still caressing her head and pulled back his hand, rubbing his head sheepishly. Argument, I couldn't resist with the way you were sleeping. He finished chuckling in embarrassment at what she caught him doing. Yugito herself remained silent as he talked, many thoughts about the Hanyu going through her head, most of them being about what exactly happened after she decided to get a little sleep. Finally, after a few moments, the answers came to her, or the ones she could come up with that were plausible for the situation, two of them being the biggest ones that banged against her mind. The first one being what he was just doing to her, which made her blush at the friendly, though slightly intimate act, and the other being Naruto was conscious. Tears began to run across the rims of her eyes as she looked at the Hanyu, before being unable to control herself and launched towards him. Naruto-kun, she cried, wrapping her arms around his N in a death grip hug as she released her happy and relieved tears against his bandaged abdomen. Naruto himself smiled softly at his emotional friend and embraced her while running his hands up and down her back in a comforting gesture. The two stayed like that for a good 5 minutes before Yugito regained her emotions and released her grip on him. She sniffled and wiped the last tears from her eyes, before looking back at him. Barker, she shouted, trying to sound angry at him but failing miserably because she was just too damn happy to see him at the moment. That's the second time you did this to me. If I didn't consider you so close to me, I'd call you an inconsiderate asshole. Oh hell, you are an inconsiderate asshole. She finished, while chuckling in between sobs, with a small smile on her lips. Hi, that I am Gomenasai Yugito-chan. He responded. But in my own defense, I had no idea what was going on nor that would happen to me. He said in a scholarly tone with his hand raised in a fist with his pointer finger extended upwards, all in all making for a humorous scene, as Yugito chuckled again, and playfully hit the Hanyu in the shoulder for his goofiness. Any Yugito-chan, exactly how long have I been out for? 2 days. Natsumi-san jumped into your mindscape after the first few hours of getting you under stable condition. I see. He retorted, his gaze taking on a faraway look, before quickly refocusing and in an odd motion lifted the sheets, looked down and looked back to her. Anno, would you mind getting me some clothes to change into? Seems Natsu-chan is still under the impression that I'd be better off if I never wear clothes. Quote. He stated, though more to himself than to the currently standing Yugito, who blushed while looking towards where she assumed his seed was and unconsciously licked her lips, her motions not going unnoticed by Naruto, who now sported a devilish grin. Or was it that you simply waited for Natsu-chan to go back into the seal so you could sneak a peek at me without anyone stopping you? He finished in a teasingly husky voice, and an eyebrow perched questioningly. To Naruto her response was cute, bordering on innocently see with how her enlarging blush looked on her cheeks at the moment. But he knew he should stop teasing the woman for what they talked about when he saved her a few weeks ago. And also because there was someone else very close to him who currently needed saving. Yugito herself, after feeling her cheeks feel as if on fire from both his words, and her own imagination running wild at the moment. She turned quickly, trying to hide her inflamed cheeks, and salvage any of her remaining dignity as a powerful kunoiki and pride as a woman from the man who just seemed to know how to say the right, and sometimes wrong things to rile her up, in a good way. She left the side of his bed and rummaged through his clothes, grabbing his usual outfit, only his time taking the form-fitting Junin pants instead of the loose kind he wore during the Chunin exam. Arigato, he said with an appreciative smile, after Yugito had playfully threw his clothes in his face in mock anger at his teasing from moments ago. Any Yugito-chan, I know I just got up but I'm going to go after Hana-chan. He continued after changing, and was now standing in front of her before pulling her into another hug. But before I go I just wanted to say arigato, for taking care of a barker like me after I was injured. He finished in a soft whisper next to her ear. Yugito in all honesty wasn't surprised that he wanted to leave right away to get Hana back, so she accepted it and just hugged him back, enjoying the feeling. After all, what would a barker like you do if not for Hana-san, Natsumi-san, or myself around NE? She joked. I'd probably eat ramen all day every day. Wear nothing but KME, bright orange. Play pranks on people. Think naively as a shinobi that even enemies who try to K me can become my friends. And literally shout every single word that comes out of my mouth, along with mottos like, I never give up, cause that's my nindo. It's a promise of a lifetime. Or I end every single sentence I speak with, believe it, or some such nonsense. He joked back, making them both laugh lightly at the absurdity of such a completely idiotic person actually existing. NE, what are you and your car-san going to do now that I'm back? He questioned after they finished laughing. I was actually hoping we could stay here a little longer until we decide what to do. If that's alright with you. Hi. Of course it's alright, stay as long as you like, Yugito-chan. Though just to let you know, Natsu-chan and myself will probably leave Konoha soon after I get Hana-chan back. So you may want to make a decision by then. NE. Hi. I can certainly understand your reasons for not staying longer than that, Naruto-kun, arigato. The two pulled apart, and gently smiled at one another before Naruto backed up and hand-signed, causing a puff of smoke to arise and Natsumi to emerge. I assume you heard? Naruto questioned, just getting a nod from his mate. Good, less explaining then. He chuckled lightly, before his emotions dimmed and his voice lost all feeling. Quote. I'll be back with Hana-chan before tomorrow. In the meantime you should probably pack the essentials in storage scrolls, so that when I establish Hana-chan's safe condition back in the village we can leave immediately after. I know the council is going to try to pull something, after my little episode at the gates, so I'd rather just leave before they come up with any plans if they haven't already. He explained, Yugito and Natsumi nodding in understanding. Good, I'm off then. He paused, before leaning over and kissed Natsumi. Quote. Yugito-chan, do me a favor and thank your car-san for her help as well. He requested with a smile, before leaving in a burst of purple flames. Hokage Tower. Within the halls of the Hokage Tower, a burst of purple flames appeared before leaving Naruto in its wake. Naruto mentally thanked Sarutobi when he saw Yamato in his Anbu mask and armor, the one guarding the door to his office. He'd have hated to knock out the guards. Yamato himself was slightly surprised when he saw Naruto appear right in front of him, not because he was afraid but because no one has heard anything of the Hanyu's condition, and yet here he was seeming to be fit as a fiddle. Ohio Yamato-san. Naruto greeted with a friendly wave. Is Oji-san in a meeting? Hi. It just began. Arigato. He retorted, when he sensed 5 chakra signatures in the room including the Hokages, and recognized Chums immediately. With who is in there it would be best I interrupt. He finished, and was about to turn the knob but a gloved and stopped him. Tell Hokage-sama I at least attempted to stop you. Yamato requested, Naruto easily sensing the joking manner in this tone before nodding. Naruto quickly went into the room and closed the door behind him. Naruto. A pair of surprised voices welcomed the Hanyu, who still had an unknown health condition in the village. Ohio Oji-san, Car-san, he greeted with a smile towards Sarutobi and Chum, and walked further into the room completely ignoring the other 3 occupants. Naruto, how are you? We haven't heard a word, and have been worried sick. His grandfather questioned. There is time for that later, Oji-san, but I'm fine now thanks to some rest and Natsu-chan. He answered, stopping behind Chum, putting a reassuring hand on her shoulder. More importantly, I would like to know the actions the village has taken to get back Hana-chan. He finished, squeezing Chum's shoulder reassuringly after feeling her tense upon hearing her daughter's name. Why should you care for? A young venomous voice questioned next to Chum's chair. Naruto turned his head to see the remaining Uzumaki family sitting next to each other. Each of them having different emotions on their faces as they looked at Naruto. Kyoshiro had an indifferent expression, but there was an underlying sense of curiosity to what his answer would be. Valios, the one who posed the question, looked at Naruto with contempt and hatred. It seemed that Minato's speech didn't affect him at all, with Kushina's teachings too ingrained in him to change. Lastly was Kushina herself, who looked at Naruto with an emotionless expression. But not for lack of emotions, but because there seemed to be too many she wanted to express at once. Naruto could see every single one reflecting in her eyes: happiness that she was looking at her son, sadness at being reminded of her lifelong sin, joy at seeing that her son was stronger than herself for not choosing the vengeance he so rightfully deserved against all those who deserved it, herself included. Pain at remembering all the things she said and did, guilt for all her past mistakes when it dealt with him, and finally the most prominent emotion, hope. Hope that somehow, some way she could reconcile with him and be the mother she should have been. To love the son that he always was, and to prove to him that she was sorry for all she did with every fiber of her being. To Naruto it seemed that Minato's words hit her hard, and shook her beliefs to her very core. And if he still had any hopes to become family again, he would probably jump for joy at the possible chance. But alas, Kushina and her family lost their chance many years ago, and her actions after returning to Konoha just solidified his resolve. Don't be so presumptuous, Uzumaki Valios. I wish to know what this village has done so far to rescue one of its shinobi, but more importantly one of my mates. Naruto answered coldly, which made Valios grunt disbelievingly. Now isn't the time for this. Sarutobi spoke up, dreading what would happen inside his office when he saw Naruto enter it, knowing his family was here as well. To answer your question, Naruto-kun, the meeting you interrupted was directly related to that. Which is why Chum-san, Kushina-san and her children are presently here. So you haven't sent any rest parties to get her back yet? He questioned, making the elderly man audibly gulp, thinking that Naruto would be upset that nothing was in motion after 2 full days. Naruto-kun, you have to understand that. I understand, Oji-san. Naruto interrupted, raising his hand to stop him from continuing on. And in fact it's a good thing you didn't. Because had you sent people, I'd have asked you to ask them back, because I'll be going after Hana-chan myself. He explained, getting questioning looks from everyone but Chum. Naruto-kun, I know you are worried about Hana-san, but I can't very well send you out alone to save her. In case you forgot, Oji-san, I'm not a part of Konoha, so you can't order me to stay, nor could you force me to stay either. It would be a waste of manpower that you cannot afford at the moment, as well as the lives of your shinobi that would get in my way to save her. And the only reason I'm even here and not already tracking her is out of respect for you. He countered. Sarutobi stayed silent, knowing full well Naruto was right. He couldn't stop the man from leaving even if he wanted to. Well, as you've stated, I can't stop you, but I can ask you to not be reckless with how you go about getting her back. From that episode at the gates I can tell you're very agitated. Try to stay calm. If you let your emotions rule you, Hana-san may as a consequence. He stated sagely, getting a nod from the Hanyu. And if I may ask, you've stated only Hana-san in your rescue plans. Are you not going to save Uzumaki Kasumi? I ask because then I will have to send my own forces with you to secure her safety if you will not do so yourself. He asked, his tone that of the leader of a village, not as Naruto's self-appointed grandfather. Naruto looked at Sarutobi in the eyes, before looking at each of the Uzumakis. He closed his eyes and grunted loudly before disappearing in a swirl of purple flames. Kushina, not knowing what the grunt meant, if anything at all, was worried and stood up quickly. Hokage-sama, I will be back, she stated quickly, her tone denoting worry, before slightly bowing and disappeared herself in a column of water. Sarutobi noticed Valios and Kyoshiro heading towards the door of his office. You two stay here, she wishes to speak to him alone. Just like he said, you can't order us around if we want to leave, Valios said in annoyance, before he and Kyoshiro were completely wrapped up in tree limbs that sprouted from the door. Arigato, please hold them until Kushina-san returns. Hi Hokage-sama, Yamato responded through the door. Konoha gates. Naruto appeared a dozen yards away from the gate, and rechecked his supplies that he might need during the rescue. He nodded to himself when the self-check was done and began walking to the gates, already smelling Hana's scent. He would have continued, but he felt a presence appear behind him and stopped to see what they wanted. Matt, wait. Kushina's voice pleaded. Naruto turned to her, and clearly saw the worry etched in her face. What is it? Kushina tensed at the tone of his voice. She could easily tell he was annoyed at being stopped from his rescue. But what she wanted to speak with him about was too important to back down from. I want you to answer the question Hokage-sama asked you back in the office. She explained, but her tone denoted no manner of superiority or malice like she usually spoke to him with. This time it was just a simple request. And why should I? Because She started before her emotions over the whole situation slightly breaking through, allowing tears to brim her eyes. I want to know if you're really so cold-hearted that you would not attempt to save your own Imuoto despite your past with us. She admitted. Do you really intend to leave her there once you find that Hana girl? Naruto snorted indignantly. I have no reason to. In fact, for all intents and purposes I have every right to leave her with Orochimaru. She is not my family, she is not my friend, and she has already tried to K me in our match multiple times. And even succeeded once against my Shishio Bushin blood clone. So you should really be trying to convince me why I should save her, instead of why I never mentioned if I was. Kushina opened her mouth to protest, but closed it sooner after without a retort to his words. She knew deep down he was right. He had no reason to save Kasumi, nor would it be wise to do in his case either. Despite the tears beginning to fall down her face, Kushina's expression hardened, feeling the chance to save her only daughter continue to slip away the more she tried to convince her son. Then I'm coming with you. She argued. I won't get in your way, my strength is on par with the Sannin of Konoha. So I'm coming with you if you aren't willing to save Kasumi yourself. She ordered with conviction in her voice. Naruto just stared at, despite her words, the trembling form of his biological mother. In truth, he was planning on saving Kasumi from Orochimaru the entire time. His grunt in the office was his silent answer that only Sarutobi understood because he was close to him when he was a child, while Chum just had faith in him to do the right thing. The reason why he didn't physically answer was to create as little problems as possible for himself. Had he done so, he figured the Uzumakis would make a tirade about the demon going to K their heir or some such nonsense. And the reason he was being slightly cruel to Kushina currently was to see how she really felt about the situation and to test her emotional responses towards him when speaking to him. With his unspoken inquiries sated, Naruto turned his back to the weeping mother, his tail swishing about. You'll only slow me down. He answered. He didn't mean it to sound so cold, but it was just the simple truth of the matter. The only person he heard of that he even considered his equal with speed was Mato Gai. Tell Oji-san that I'll return before tomorrow. He finished, and was about to leave, but a hand squeezing his shoulder stopped his movement. Naruto turned towards the hand only to see a fist raging towards his face. With a mental command, one of his tails caught the approaching wrist, stopping the incoming attack. His gaze landed on the heated one of Kushina's. I'm not leaving my Musume in the clutches of Orochimaru. And I don't care if I have to break every bone in your body and have to carry you with me to find them. I'm not letting you leave Konoha until you agree to bring me with you. She threatened in a growl. Naruto quirked a brow at her courage to threaten him despite her knowing the difference in their strength, as well as her stupidity at threatening probably the only person that could still successfully track the two females after so long. Before Kushina could try to dodge, a fist slammed into her stomach, making her slump over and cough up some blood. When Naruto pulled back his arm, Kushina crumpled to her knees, gasping for air. It is as I stated a moment ago, you'll only slow me down. Remember to tell Oji-san that I'll return by tomorrow. He ordered, disappearing in a swirl of purple flames. Kushina looked up when he spoke, and raised an arm as if trying to reach out to him in desperation, but when he shunted away she looked wide-eyed and stumbled to her feet. She was about to chase after him, praying she could catch up, but realized the futility. She didn't have any way to track him, and the speed he could travel at. No, the only thing she could do now was pray. Kami-sama, I know I don't deserve any favors after all I've done to him. But please let me be wrong about all of the things I've spewed about him. Please allow him even just a sliver of compassion to save my Musume. Though not for me, I don't deserve such a gift, but for Kasumi-chan herself. She will never deserve what she gets as a hostage under Orochimaru. I will do anything to be able to see her safe and sound again. Onagai. The Uzumaki head silently prayed to God above as she looked sullenly at the opened gates, cradling her stomach. Kushina let a final tear fall down her face, let her gaze drop and turned back towards the Hokage Tower in depression and defeat. Not wanting to be out in public for more than necessary anymore, she disappeared in a column of water back into the Hokage's office to finish off the meeting. Later that evening drew up quickly that night in Fire Country, a night that seemed to hold a strange air of foreboding and evil during its late hours. Although it was the middle of the summer, the night wind gave off a great ominous and icy breeze that seemed to freeze the bones of the villagers who traveled outdoors when it blew. Many getting the feeling that the wind was possessed by the Shinigami himself. The complete darkness of the night that only subsided slightly thanks to the street lamps, the oddly colored moon, tainted with a sheen of crimson, and an odd purple beam of light that ascended from the mountains earlier in the day. All of this made everyone within the village quite on edge after the sun disappeared under the horizon. Both citizens and some shinobi as well decided to stay within the lit and warm confines of their homes as much as possible due to the strange and frightful night. Pretty strange night, ne Izumo? Kotetsu asked his gate guard buddy. I suppose, but for shinobi it's nothing. Izumo answered while boredly looking past the gates into the black-lit forest. True, but still such strange things, this ominous wind, the bloody moon, and then that strange purple beam. What do you think that was anyway? Who knows, but it looked far away from here, and Hokage-sama did send Anbu to investigate. So if it was something we need to worry about, we'll know soon. I suppose. Whoa. Kotetsu answered before stopping because of what he and Izumo were suddenly looking at. In front of the pair appeared seemingly out of the darkness itself was a pair of Narutos who had a large bundle cradled in each of their arms. Other than just the sheer surprise of them appearing as they did, they were surprised because of how they looked. Both Narutos were caked from head to toe in dried blood, but they didn't seem to be injured themselves, so that meant the blood had to have been spilled by someone else, and a lot of it from the sheer amount. Not only were the Hanyas bloody, but the bundles in their arms were as well. The bundles after some time could be identified as two females, with one being quite older than the other, but with cloaks covering, and the women couldn't be identified. They were about to question the demon pair on just what the hell was going on, but were interrupted when one of the Narutos spoke to the other. Take her immediately to the hospital. Then go to the Hokage and tell him I'm back and was successful. Finally go find her Kar-san and let her know she is in the hospital. Do not answer any questions, simply do as I ordered and then dispel yourself, understood? Naruto said to the other sternly. Hi, the Naruto with the younger girl confirmed before jumping away towards the hospital. Naruto sighed deeply, before looking down to his own bundle and gently brushed some hair out of the woman's face, smiling as he did so. Welcome back, I'll help you get cleaned up and then get you some rest, ne Hana-chan? He rhetorically asked in a loving manner. Kotetsu finally had enough of the strange scene he was witnessing and was about to question Naruto about what the hell was going on, especially since there was blood involved. But before he even had a chance to start, Naruto shunted away in a swirl of purple flames, leaving the two guards perplexed. So, that was interesting. Izumo said. Yeah. Kotetsu answered dumbly. So, should we alert Hokage-sama? He told his clone to do so I'd say no since it can't disobey. Plus this night is getting just too damn weird and I'd like to keep a sliver of saneness, and to do so I'll have to act like I didn't just see all that. Hi, you're probably right. But still it seems he just can't do anything normally, ne. Amen to that, either it's his pranks, beatings, blowing up the Chunin arena, or being covered in blood. That guy just doesn't seem to know the word normal. Kotetsu agreed, shaking his head in exasperation while thinking of everything Naruto did within his time in the village. Inuzuka compound. Ne Kar-san, do you really think Naruto can bring back Ne-san alone? Kiba asked while lounging in the living room, though despite his tough exterior he was worried sick about Hana. Hi, if there is anyone I can trust to being back Hana-chan, it is Naruto. Chum, who was in the kitchen cooking, answered with conviction. However, despite her faith in Naruto, she was still worried for her daughter and adoptive son. Naruto may be powerful, but this was still Orochimaru that he was facing. That man wasn't to be taken lightly. Suddenly a knock on the door to the house aroused the attention of the clan head, her son, along with the rest of the clan who were in other parts of the house. I'll get it, Kiba shouted, while getting up and going to the door. Kiba opened the door, but never expected to see who was there as well as the situation they were in. Car-san, Kiba shouted in both shock and worry. A few seconds later Chum rounded the corner looking at Kiba sternly from interrupting her cooking, that is before she dropped the knife in her hand, gasping while covering her mouth, her eyes wide in shock at who she saw. Before her and Kiba was Naruto and Hana in the same fashion that Izumo and Kotetsu saw them in. Naruto-kun, she nearly whispered, getting a gentle smile and nod from the blood-drenched Hanyu. Hi Car-san, he answered and took a step into the house. Mission accomplished. He finished, his smile widening, before taking off the hood of Hana's cloak. The Inuzuka pair gasped again, seeing the blood covering Hana's face with worry etched on their own. Kiba, being the closer of the two, took a tentative step closer, and extended his hand as it shook. Is she? He tried to asked, though left the question unspoken in fear of even letting the words leave his mouth as his fingertips finally touched his sister's covered arm. No. She is just sleeping. He answered. Gamen, I know I just brought her back to you, but she needs to get cleaned up. I rushed her back immediately after I found her. He explained, getting sad but understanding frowns from the pair. Let's get her to the bathroom, Chum suggested before walking towards the room with Naruto in tow. The moment the door closed, however, Chum spun on her heels and looked at Naruto in the eye. Now isn't the time to lie to me about what happened, Naruto, she stated sternly, Naruto getting her meaning immediately and nodded, her eyes softened and looked down at her sleeping daughter. I smelled it the moment I rounded the corner. I'm just glad Kiba's nose isn't as trained as mine, so he failed to notice, and I don't have the heart to tell him. She was rude, wasn't she? She finished, her tone completely yes. Hi, he answered simply, while unconsciously pulling Hana deeper into his protective hold. Chum began to lightly cry for her daughter. It was every female's unspoken nightmare for this to happen, and as a kunyaki, that aspect of reality becomes that more likely because of their line of work. Add that to Hana's already dismal past with men and you have a very serious situation that Chum was extremely worried about how Hana's psyche could or would handle this fact now that she was safe. Chum walked up to Naruto and gently touched her daughter's bruised cheek with the back of her hand. Do you have any idea if she is pregnant? She whispered, knowing that Naruto knew medical jutsu after the argument Natsumi and Tsunade had when he was espered. If she was, God only knows how Hana would handle it, especially knowing it wasn't Naruto's child. I didn't find anything to indicate she was, however it all depends on how many times she was abused, as well as if she took the pill regularly. Though knowing her and her past with men, I doubt she has missed a single day in her life. If you want my opinion, no, I don't think she is, but only time will tell. He answered softly. Chum nodded at his answer before scooping both her arms under Hana's frame. Naruto understood what she wanted and released his hold on her, allowing Chum to hold her. Chum just watched her sleeping daughter, thousands of thoughts going through her mind. Did you make those bastards pay? Her voice finally broke the silence, her tone taking on the aspects of the most feared being in all of existence that even God would quiver at, a vengeful, pissed, and protective mothers. Hi, they suffered. If you thought what I did at the gates was terrible, those were deaths befitting a hero compared to what I did to those men. To give you a visual, you saw that purple beam in the sky earlier? He questioned, getting a confused nod from Chum. That was one of my most powerful jutsu I used to blow up the entire complex I found Hana-chan in. There was even less left of that place than the building I vaporized when I was under my bloodlust. You can curse me, attack me, abuse me, scorn me, but the moment you lay a hand on those important to me, especially my mates, your lives are mine, the laws be damned. He explained, getting a surprised look from Chum before it turned into a feral and approving leer. Hana certainly picked a great mate in you, Naruto-kun, I'm slightly jealous. She responded approvingly, making Naruto smirk. And what about Uzumaki Kasumi? She questioned, making him quirk her eyebrow. Oh please, don't think I'm stupid enough to believe you'd willingly leaving someone even if they are an Uzumaki in the clutches of someone like Orochimaru. You have way more honor than that, and I have too much faith in you to believe otherwise, so where is she? She explained with a superior smirk, with Naruto shaking his head with a smile. Currently in the hospital with Kushina on her way more than likely, since I had a cage bush and tell her. He answered while caressing Hana's cheek with the back of his hand. See, I knew my faith wasn't unfounded, and you know she is probably gonna want to talk to you, as will the council. Hi. I'm not looking forward to it. But then again, there are a lot of things I'm not looking forward to in the next few days. He lamented, before sighing and letting his hand drop from Hana's cheek. You should get her cleaned up. Aren't you going to? I think she'd want you to do it more than me, she asked, confused at his statement. No. Despite my wanting to be there for her, I'm not sure how Hana-chan would react if she found a man was the one washing her, even if it's me. It would be safer for her for a female to clean her, and no one is better suited for it than you. While she is getting cleaned up, I'll do the same and return to finish healing her cuts. He offered. Naruto touched Hana's cheek one last time before turning towards the door and was about to open it when Chum's voice stopped him. Please don't think less of me for asking this, especially after what I just said about my faith in you, but I have to ask this. She began, while mentally reprimanding herself for what she was about to ask. Will you still love her like you do now even if she later becomes pregnant by one of those bastards you ked? She questioned in a shaky voice. Naruto stopped all body movement when she asked, and turned slowly towards his adoptive mother, his gaze barreling down on her own, making her unconsciously shiver from it. I am slightly saddened you would have to ask me such a thing, Car-san. Quote. He began. Chum opened her mouth to protest and apologize, but a raised hand stopped her. But as Hana-chan's Car-san, I can understand why, so it's okay. Quote. He smiled warmly, letting her know it was all right. But to answer your question, there is nothing in this world or the next that will have me loving your Musumi any less than I do right at this very moment. If she does become pregnant, I will probably love her even more for bearing a responsibility such as a child. And if she even decides to keep it, I will help raise it as if it was my own. The child is not at fault here, and as such should not be punished for the wrongdoings of its two-san. Hana-chan, Natsu-chan and myself will see to it that it is raised with loving parents. I will not have any child birthed by my mates live the kind of life that I was forced to, that I promise you. He declared. Chum could only smile proudly at the man who was standing before her. His declaration was strong and honest. She knew from then on that no matter what, her grandkids would live happily. I'm very glad to hear that, Naruto-kun. Gomenasai for asking again. She bowed for forgiveness. Not a problem, it's your right as a Car-san. But I should be going. I'll be back in about half an hour. He stated before turning, opened the door and closed it behind him swiftly. Chum just looked down at her daughter and smiled a happy and genuine smile. Hana, you certainly bagged the man of the millennium. I don't think I could have picked a better mate for you myself. I'm so proud of you, and I'm happy that he is yours. I just hope that his love and strength will help guide you through this obstacle. She thought lamentingly, while preparing a bath to clean her daughter. 30 minutes later, another knock on the Inuzuka's door resounded through the house, with Kiba being the closest yet again decided to answer it. Hey Naruto-Nisan. Kiba welcomed, letting Naruto inside. Hey Kiba. He greeted, while turning his head side to side seeming to look for something. She is in her room waiting for you. Kiba answered, knowing exactly who Naruto was frantically looking for. Arigato. Naruto thanked with an appreciative smile. How are you holding up, by the way? He asked, making Kiba look on rather shocked that at a time like this he was concerned about him. Things could be better, especially with what happened to Nei-chan. He replied, saddened. Quote. I also saw a lot of things I wish I didn't while the invasion was going on. And even though I accepted being a shinobi, it's still tough sometimes. Naruto smiled sadly at the smaller Inuzuka. He too knew what it was like to see the horrors of the shinobi life as a child. Naruto took a step and placed a reassuring hand on Kiba's shoulder. Well Kiba, despite how old I may look now, I do know quite well of what you speak. My advice to you is to think about your personal views on what being a shinobi means, as well as why you wanted to become one in the first place. And think about if those views and beliefs are strong enough to withstand the hardships of the shinobi life that you lead now and will in the future. When I asked myself this same question, the only answer I could initially come up with was power. To gain enough power to protect myself from others. But as time went on and I began to make friends throughout the world, and then when Natsu-chan and I got together, my views changed. The new reason why I wanted to stay a shinobi and become stronger wasn't for myself anymore, but for those I cared for. To become strong enough to protect things that were important to me so as to not rely on another's strength for things that I should protect myself. I don't know if your reasons are the same or not, but if you believe your reasons are strong enough to weather the storm of a shinobi, then you should stay the course of a shinobi as well. Kiba absorbed Naruto's advice like a sponge, and in Kiba's opinion that was exactly what he needed to hear to clear his mind of his apprehension on continuing his profession. Arigato, Naruto-Nisan. He thanked with a large toothy smile, before Naruto ruffled his hair playfully. Now go see to Mine-chan and cheer her up like you did me. He ordered jokingly. Sir, yes sir. Naruto joked back with a salute, before heading towards Hana's room. As he got closer to the door, Naruto felt worry, and fear begin fluttering in the bottom of his guts. He knew what went on between them now would either make or break Hana depending on how things transpired. He reached the door, before pausing to let out a deep breath to psych himself up, opened the door and walked inside. As he entered the room, he noticed that there was no artificial light being used to illuminate it, and the only presence of light was the red-tinted moonlight that shot through the window. The red light caused the room to take on an ominous quality to it. Naruto quickly recognized the room and all the items placed within it, her bed, dresser, closet doors, nightstand, all of these objects drenched within the crimson light. That's when he saw her shadow creeping across the carpeted floor, up the side and across her bed. When Naruto followed the shadow, he came across Hana and realized why her shadow grew the way it had. Hana herself was sitting on the windowsill that jutted out enough to allow such a thing. She was sitting with her back against the wall, her knees pulled up against her chest, her arms wrapped tightly around them. She only wore a white bathrobe that stopped at her mid-thigh and kept her hair out of her ponytail, which made it fall down to her shoulder blades, along with several band-aids on her body. She gazed through the window, but her expression was one of apprehension, forlornness, and worry, with Naruto understanding the emotion placed on her all too well from his own past experiences. Naruto knew this was a delicate situation Hana was in, and decided to take things as slow as possible compared to just walking up to her, grabbing her into a fierce and protective hug and just telling her everything would be alright like he wanted to. The situation called for patience and finesse, and after taking another silent breath, took a tentative step deeper into her room. He saw no negative movement from her and took that as a sign he could continue and did so. He walked slowly to the side of her bed that was closest to her before taking a seat, never once taking his gaze off of her small and fragile-looking frame. Hana herself didn't even have to look at who was the one that opened the door. The moment his hand touched the doorknob, she knew it was him. He just had that commanding presence that she could nor would ever forget. She pulled against her legs tighter when she heard the door slam shut but never moved from her spot, while in truth she just wanted to rush to him and have him embrace her and feel his strong protective arms around her telling her she'd be all right. But she knew she couldn't do that, not after what she was forced to participate in back at the complex. She was afraid of him, no, not of him, but what he now thought of her after seeing her and knowing what happened to her. Did he blame her? Blame her for not fighting back enough? For allowing those men to do those things to her? Did he hate her? Hate her for letting men take what was essentially meant for him only? Would he hate her if she got pregnant from one of them? Would he hate her if she wanted to keep said child? Would he hate her if she wanted him to father a child with her that he knew wasn't his? Would he love her? Love her even after what all those men did to abuse and use her like some cheap whore before throwing her back to him like used goods? Would he want her? Want the body that he seemed to yearn for back during that day of the tune-in preliminaries? Want to feel her, taste her, touch her, smell her, make passionate love to her until she screamed his name in ecstasy and he hers? Too many questions plagued the young heiress's thoughts, and the more questions she asked herself, the more her heart began to break. Each piece sinking into the growing darkness within her soul. She wanted to scream, to howl out her fears and sorrows for the world to hear, but she knew it would solve nothing. There was only one person now that could alleviate her affliction of a breaking heart. But she was stone terrified to even open her mouth, let alone ask these questions she desperately wanted answered from the man she loved. The very man who currently sat on her bed watching her with an unwavering gaze. The silence was almost deafening to the pair, but until then neither had the fortune to start, and in truth neither really knowing where to begin. Naruto however had enough of the silence, knowing full well that it was just making the situation worse for Hana and uncomfortable for himself, and coughed lightly before speaking. Konbanwa, good evening, Hana-chan. He greeted immediately, berating himself for such a lame beginning. Hana stayed silent in response, and Naruto knew he wouldn't get anything out of her if he was walking on eggshells the entire conversation. Then a thought hit him, and he couldn't help but chuckle lightly in response, though he noticed a sliver of movement on Hana's part when he did so. Gomenasai Hana-chan. He started before letting his body fall back so his weight rested on his arms against the bed and let his head hang back to face the ceiling. While this situation isn't funny in the least, I laughed because I remember a time when I was in the same position you are in right now, with Oji-san in mind. It was after one of the worst attacks that ever happened to me in the village when I was 5. I'll spare you details, but in the end I was in the same position you are in now. While neither situations are laughable, what is the fact that despite knowing how you feel, I have no idea what to say to you to make it better. Kind of pathetic on my part, ne? He finished, his mirthful laugh from before turning dark and cynical. Although Hana hadn't moved as he spoke, her face changed expressions rapidly from interest, to anger, to fear, to sadness, to understanding from the intimate information that he shared with her. Information that she was sure Naruto only told a select few about. When she heard Naruto laugh cynically, she couldn't help but turn her head and look at him, but what she saw shocked her. While Naruto was still looking up at the ceiling laughing, there were streams of tears coming down his face and although he never stated it, she had a strong sense that he wasn't crying because of his own painful past, but because of her. Because he couldn't protect her back then from Orochimaru, and because he couldn't protect her now. That was just the kind of person Naruto was in her opinion, and one of the qualities about him she loved. A single tear rolled down her face as she watched him. She knew he was not to blame for what happened, and yet he still did. She knew despite her own anxiety at the moment she had to relieve him of the burden he carried. He needed to know he was not at fault. No, she said, her voice soft and raspy since she hadn't actually spoken a word to her family since she awoke after Chum cleaned her. Naruto stopped his chuckling immediately after he heard her speak, quite surprised in fact that she chose that moment too, but decided to not look a gift horse in the mouth. He sat up and pulled his head back down to look at Hana, who now gazed at him with a sad expression on her face. You aren't pathetic, Naruto-kun. And to prove that, you are here trying to support me, even though you went through something similar to myself and were even reminded of it thanks to me. You aren't pathetic at all, not to me. She said genuinely, her voice beginning to get back the normal melody it always held. Arigato Hana-chan, that means a lot coming from you. He responded, with a small but thankful smile, before he took a breath and chanced to pose a question. Ano, if you want, you can join me on the bed. It's much more comfortable than that windowsill, I'm sure. Plus I would enjoy your company very much. He offered warmly after drying his eyes. Hana's body twitched automatically from hearing the offer from the man that claimed her heart, but the fear still held her back. She stayed silent for a full minute with Naruto patiently waiting, before she forced her body to move. She moved slowly from the windowsill towards her bed. Naruto, not wanting to make things harder for her, moved to his left to allow her all the room she needed to sit down comfortably. She saw his movement and mentally smiled for his considerate actions, but in a bout of courage and a swift movement turned slightly and sat down right next to him, their thighs and shoulders mere inches apart. Naruto himself, while surprised at her action, was quite satisfied with the results, because it simply meant he was slowly but surely getting through to the proud and strong Inuzuka Hana he came to know and love. Another silence engulfed the room, with the occupants now just staring ahead and out the window, neither knowing what to do or say now. Another problem that arose between the two was their proximity now. The problem being that for some strange reason the pair could feel the heat the other generated coming off them and making them itch to be closer to that warmth. Naruto wanted to wrap his arm around her and pull her in close, while Hana herself wanted to fall to the side and just lean her body against his. Naruto mentally grunted to himself at his dilemma and just decided to take a leap of faith. "Any Hana-chan," he called out, making her turn to him only to see his right arm held up in the air. "Can I?" He let his actions explain his question, when she saw him ever so slowly put his right arm behind her but didn't touch her. Hana at first didn't understand what he was trying to ask, but after a few moments she realized it, he wanted to touch her. At first the thought of a man touching her again after what happened to her frightened her almost out of her skin. But as her logical side began to beat back her fears with the realization of just who the man was, she decided he was the only one she would allow now. With a tentative nod Hana answered his question, and with a small and happy smile Naruto gently put his arm around her and let his arm rest on her shoulder. Unfortunately, because of the trauma of what happened, her body reacted negatively towards Naruto's touch and Hana visibly tensed and shook enough to knock his arm off her shoulders. Both the pair were taken aback at her actions, though involuntary as they were. Naruto, because of how severe her reaction to him was, which he frowned at. He had hoped she wouldn't have reacted that badly to his touch, but he completely understood her reaction and didn't blame her. While Hana shook, and fear erupted for two reasons, first being that when she was touched her body reacted so negatively from his touch her mind recalled images that burned in her memory from the complex. The other fearful reason being how Naruto himself would react to her reaction to him. She didn't want to be afraid of him, she wasn't afraid of him, and yet her body still reacted in the same manner as if it was some male stranger that tried that same act. Naruto pulled his arm back and sadly frowned after he saw Hana's physical reaction as well as her current expression. He simply waited for her to calm down before he would apologize for his actions. After a few minutes of silence, Hana seemed to have calmed down, her expression went back to one of sadness, which made Naruto growl at his own stupidity. "Hana-chan, gee, gomenasai. I shouldn't have asked to do that so soon. Naruto immediately stopped his apology when he felt a hand fall on top of his own. As well as see Hana shake her head with a sad smile on her lips before turning to look at him. "No," she responded in a whisper, as she gently squeezed his hand. "I should be the one to apologize, Naruto-kun. I told you it was okay and I still reacted like this, gomen." Naruto was shocked at her words, and although she was right in her point, he knew it truly wasn't her fault for unconsciously reacting that way after the trauma she went through. And he should know after his own he didn't allow anyone but the Hokage and the assigned head doctor to touch him for a good month afterwards. At that thought, and the memory of what Hana just said and did, he couldn't help but smile and shake his head. He was completely underestimating Hana's inner strength both physically and emotionally. Only someone with strength like hers could turn a situation where they were the victim and spin it so that they were supporting the people who were originally there to support them. "You're really incredible, Hana-chan," he stated whimsically, making her quirk an eyebrow, confused on where that came from. "Only someone with your inner strength could turn the tables in which the victim is the one doing the supporting instead of someone like me," he explained, mentally beaming at seeing the slightest tinge of pink on her cheeks and a broad smile on her lips from his compliment. Hana felt happier than she had all day after hearing Naruto praise her as he had. She felt so good, in fact her fears were momentarily forgotten, which allowed her to blush and even smile because of his words. Knowing it wouldn't last much longer, Hana took the chance and shocked Naruto when in one swift motion she scooted over so their sides were pressing against each other, her head was lolled to the side on top of his shoulder, and while doing that pulled his arm behind her so it was wrapped around her waist. Hana-chan knew, but was interrupted with a finger against his lips. "I needed to take a chance, please let me enjoy this feeling," she answered against his shoulder. Naruto just stayed silent in light of Hana's plea to him, and after a few moments a grand smile streaked across his face. He decided to deepen the feeling that Hana wished to preserve by tightening his grip on her, which brought her deeper into him, and then lightly let his head tilt to the side to end up resting atop her own. Hana herself wanted this moment to last forever. She felt unimaginably happy even though a trauma just occurred with her not 24 hours ago. But at the moment she couldn't have cared less, she was in a loving embrace with the man she cared for. Unfortunately the trauma couldn't be forgotten no matter how much the pair wished it never happened, and her happy moment had to end eventually. At that thought she felt sadness creeping back into her mind and her shoulders sunk at the feeling, to which Naruto picked up immediate and got worried. "Hana-chan, He questioned, but got no response, so he shook her gently. Hana-chan, what's currently on your mind that's bothering you? I know it's hard to talk about, but please, I'm here to help, so don't be afraid to talk to me, he stated, concern etched into his voice. Hana easily heard his whispered plea to her, and wanted more than anything to spill her heart to him. The problem was that she was afraid, deathly afraid of both his reactions to her thoughts as well as his possible answers to them. She wanted desperately to confide in the man she trusted the most in this world, but at the same time this same man could completely crush her with a single word. She bit her lip in sheer frustration, her mind so encased in her thoughts she didn't even realize she was bleeding. An odd thought then came to her as she was in turmoil, that what she felt now was actually worse than when she was in that complex. At least in that place she wasn't given a choice on making herself miserable compared to now, in which everything was based on her single choice. Her happiness or sadness now hinged on this one decision. In response to this, her body began to tremble, physically expressing the turmoil her mind was in at the moment. Naruto felt Hana begin to shake in what he figured was something akin to apprehension or fear. Because he didn't know what was going through Hana's mind other than it seemed to be tearing her up inside, he concluded only one thing could be done on his end to calm her. Unfortunately, he only hoped that her reaction wouldn't be even worse with what he had planned, since with only a touch before caused her to shake almost violently. Naruto pulled her against him even more reassuringly, before bringing his free hand to cup her chin with his fingers. He pulled her head off his shoulder and he turned his body to her and her head to him. Naruto gazed into Hana's fearful eyes. He tried his best to portray a warm and reassuring feeling through his eyes so she could calm down. He mentally smiled when he saw her eyes focus more on him than her fears, at least for the moment, which meant it was now or never. Hana-chan, he whispered in a lover's tone. Quote, I want you to know that no matter what happens, I will always be by your side and protect you. He declared with nothing but conviction in his voice before he slowly leaned in and kissed her lips softly, making her body freeze at the intimate contact, but was elated to feel her not have a drastic negative response like when he touched her earlier. Now please tell me what is wrong, he whispered again after releasing her lips. By now Hana's mind was in a haze, she didn't know what happened really. One moment her mind was raging on one of the most important decisions of her life, and the next she was lip-locked enjoying the feeling and taste of the lips pressed against hers. The haze soon lifted from her mind like a fog after a morning's rain, and was surprised to see Naruto smiling at her with a warm gaze in his amethyst orbs. That smile, it was innocent but trusting at the same time. And his eyes were just the same, they held a person's innermost feelings, that is if one were to look close enough. And as Hana gazed at him, she could see absolutely no ill intent or negative emotion coming off him, only warmth, reassurance, understanding, and the most important to her, love. At that moment Hana made her decision. She would lay her feelings and heart on the line one final time and put them in the hands of Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. In truth, she didn't know what her decision would bring either of them after she spoke, but she knew at the very least she would never regret her decision to put her life in the hands of a man like him. Silently Hana pulled herself away from Naruto's body and grasp, making the Hanyu looking at her with puzzlement. She stood up and took a few tentative steps forward where her form was now encased in that eerie crimson moonlit glow. Hana then wrapped her arms around herself, trying to subdue the fear that still resided in her. She let out a long breath, with Naruto still sitting on the bed awaiting her next move. What's been on my mind is what's been on my mind ever since I woke up back in my room and I didn't immediately see you next to me. She began in a whisper, her fear still holding her back from talking with any semblance of confidence, her words making Naruto quirk a worried eyebrow at her words. Questions, so many questions have passed through my mind and they all pertain to you. She paused one final time to take a deep breath before taking the final leap of faith. Do you blame me? Blame me for not fighting back enough? For allowing those men to violate me as they did? Do you hate me? Hate me for men taking something that I will give willing only to you? Would you hate me if I got pregnant by one of them? Would you hate me if I wished to keep the child? Would you hate me if I wished for you to father the child with me that you knew wasn't yours? Would you love me? Love me even after what all those men did to abuse and use me like some cheap whore before throwing me back to you like used goods? Would you want me? Want to feel me? Taste me? Touch me? Smell me? Make passionate love to me until I scream your name in ecstasy and you mine? So many things, Naruto-kun, and I'm just afraid, deathly afraid of your answers. She explained, letting out a haggard and fearful breath once finished, not daring to turn around to look at him, the grip on her arm so hard that her tanned skin grew white from the pressure. Naruto himself was stunned at Hana's confession. Never had he thought she was so deathly concerned about all this. While some of the questions he realized she would think about, others just never even came up in his mind. Silence reigned in the bedroom for several minutes, the female occupant nearly hyperventilating from the long silence as tears began to flow down her eyes. In her mind, the silence was Naruto's answer. While Naruto thought deeply on each and every question she posed, to come up with a truthful answer for her. It wouldn't be fair to her to lie to her when she spilled her heart, soul and fears to him so poetically, even if in the short run it would make her happy. Naruto finally reached a conclusion to each question and silently stood up from his seat on the bed, and without a single sound reached to within an inch of Hana's back. In one swift motion he wrapped his arms underneath her crossed ones, resting his hands atop hers, which began to glow purple. His tails did the same, wrapping randomly around her body before pulling her against his chest so he could rest his chin on her shoulder and head against the side of hers. His motions so fast she gasped in surprise, and unconsciously tried to wriggle out of his soft vice gs. My Hana-chan is a real barker. He whispered warmly against her ear, making her shiver slightly. And if anyone can understand at least mostly what you're going through, it's me. While some of your questions caught me off guard. Which is also why I was so silent a moment ago. Many of them I figured you were thinking about, since I thought along the same lines too after it happened to me. I want you to know, my Hana-chan, that I'm very proud of you. You are taking this whole thing a lot better than most people, and even I did. I'll need to remember to never underestimate your strength in the future. He said jokingly, while nibbling her ear the tiniest bit. But to not leave you hanging, I will answer your questions now, even if some of them I think are silly just because I would never do something like that. But then again, you are a barker, but you are my barker. Now let's begin the list. I will never blame you for what occurred in the complex. I know from your injuries that you fought tooth and nail against those bastards in the most literal sense. You allowed them nothing, Hana-chan, they took from you. I will never hate you. I will happily accept anything that you give me, Hana-chan, and no one, not even those men, can take that away from us. That is something that is special between only us. Quote. He paused to slightly chuckle from remembering a conversation he had with a certain Inuzuka clan head about the next few questions. Believe it or not, Ka-san asked me the same few questions I'm about to answer, and I will answer them the same to you as I did to her. I would never hate you if you became pregnant by one of those bastards. If you do become pregnant, I will probably love you even more for bearing the responsibility such as a child. And if you even decide to keep it, I will help raise it as if it was my own. The child is not at fault here, and as such should not be punished for the wrongdoings of its two-san. You, Natsu-chan, and I will see to it that it is raised with loving parents. I will not have any child birthed by my mates live the kind of life that I was forced to, that I promise you. As for the remaining questions, no matter what happens, I will always want you, to feel you. Taste you, touch you, smell you, and I especially make passionate love to you, where I'll make you scream my name for all the village to hear. You have a body that won't quit, and I'm lucky enough to have mates who are beautiful goddesses whom I have the singular pleasure of holding just like I am now. You are my Hana-chan, now and forever. He finished, with a full body squeeze, hoping, praying that she believed his words, as his hands stopped glowing, feeling that all of Hana's injuries were now healed. Hana heard every one single word that came out of Naruto's mouth when he was talking, and by the end she began to cry once more. Not because of fear, doubt, despair, nor apprehension, but because she was in complete and utter euphoria. Her body began trembling once more as the tears ran hot down her cheeks and across the eating grin on her lips that Naruto couldn't currently see. Naruto felt her trembling and his heart sank, which fell even lower when he heard her lightly sobbing. Go. Gomenasai, Hana-chan. He panicked. Shut up, Barker. She interrupted in between sobs and bits of laughter which confused Naruto somewhat. Please release me, and I'm not crying because I'm sad. She continued on, with Naruto releasing her immediately, though quite reluctantly. Quote. I'm crying because I'm happy. She finished in a happy voice that made Naruto go wide-eyed from the change. His eyes widened to the size of dinner plates when she turned around quickly and without warning laid a passionate kiss on his lips. The two just embraced as their tongues danced in place, her arms wrapped around his around her waist while his tails wrapped gingerly around her back and legs. Unfortunately for the pair, breathing was on the top three things to live, so they reluctantly released their lips from one another and simply rested their foreheads against one another. "See, I told you, you were a barker," he joked, getting a playful bite on his lip. "Still She paused, still feeling the remnants of dread in her system. "I was scared to lose you, you whom I care so deeply for. I never told you this, but that day when you asked me out. I promised myself that if we didn't work out I would stop looking for a mate. I put all my eggs in one basket when it came to you, and even though I swore that oath to myself, deep down I knew that if we didn't stay together I would still want a mate and eventually a family. Perhaps it's my clan's genes for the female to want pups and be a Kar-san, but still if I lost you tonight, I really don't know what I would have done with myself," she admitted, her grip on his clothing tightening when she admitted that, which shocked Naruto. He had no idea this relationship was so important to her. "Well then it's a good thing I'm me," he whispered softly, after kissing her forehead. "That it is my Naruto-kun," she smiled back, before one of his tails involuntarily hit a spot on her that caused her to gasp in fright and her body to tremor slightly, the place the tail touched bringing back very malevolent memories from the complex. "Hana-chan, what's wrong?" he asked worriedly, reining back his tails knowing they were the cause. He had hoped all this was behind them, but he was being foolish. Hana herself pulled her arms back from his end to have them now pressed against his chest, causing her body to move a few inches away from his, her head hanging down so her face was out of Naruto's view. Suddenly her hands grabbed a fistful of his orange flak jacket in a death grip before her voice cut the tension. "Naruto-kun, she paused to hold in a sob from the images still roaming her mind. "I need you to help me," she confided. "Of course Hana-chan, whatever it is I'll do it." In response to him she finally looked up, her expression one of fear, as tears continued to fall down her cheeks. "I want you to help me forget," she said bluntly, making Naruto look oddly at her. "Forget? To forget the memories of that horrid place and what they did to me there before you saved me," she explained. Naruto was at a loss for words. He considered himself fairly intelligent as well as powerful, but for the life of him he couldn't think of a way to do such a thing. "Gomenasai Hana-chan, but I don't have a jutsu to my knowledge to change, rewrite, or STS memories from a person. And the Yamanaka clan are the only ones I can think of that might have that ability," he answered, though it was with a tone of regret for not being able to help as she needed him to. Hana's response to him was a gentle smile, and a shake of her head at him. "While that is an idea, that isn't what I meant in this case, Naruto-kun." She responded, making him look questioningly at her. "I want you to make love to me," she said bluntly, making him look slightly wide-eyed. "These memories I have of that place and what those monsters did to me, I don't think those emotional or psychological wounds will heal with time. When people touch me in certain places, memories fly through my mind of that place and what they did. And I don't want to be afraid to touch and to be touched because of them. It's only been a day and I can barely stand it when you're holding me and touching me like you have been, because my memories flash, causing it to feel like they're touching me instead of you. I don't want that, I can't stand that. So I want you to make love to me, make me feel your love so that when my memories fade back to what those men did, you will appear instead of them. When I think of them, I'll instead think of tonight with you. The way you feel against my skin, the way you taste on my lips, the way you fill me so completely. Everything about tonight will drive out those memories of that horrible place and leave me only remembering us and this crimson night." She paused one last time to gaze into his amethyst pools, her eyes reflecting a pleading desire for him. "Please Naru-kun, make love to me," she pleaded in a sea whisper, before giving him a chaste kiss. Naruto returned the innocent kiss while being completely speechless at her explanation, though he did understand the principle behind her idea. When a bad situation, or in this case memory, occurred, you can try to overlap them with a good situation or memory. Therefore, even when the bad situation or memory is triggered, the good memory will present itself instead of the bad one. Hana released her kiss and looked back at Naruto, awaiting his answer. You're not just using me, are you? He asked with a playful smirk, looking back at her. Of course I am, she chirped. But since when does helping your mate, plus making love, end badly for you? Touché, he replied before dipping his head and kissed her once more, before cupping her cheek in his hand. Are you really sure about this? Hi. I want to be able to know that when you touch me it will always be you touching me. She responded before a small smirk crossed her lips. Besides, I think we've both wanted this for a while, but with the exams. She explained, getting an agreeable nod from her partner before pulling him with her towards the bed and then turning when her legs hit the side. Now, please, Naru-kun, help me forget. She pleaded earnestly. I will do my best, my Tenshi-hime, angel princess, he answered her call, before leaning in and kissed her deeply. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.